Hey guys, my name is Tanner. Welcome to the channel. Today, we are going to be talking through my current 2025 rig rundown. We're going to talk about board. We're going to talk about basses. We're going to talk about in-ears. I'm going to talk about how I'm traveling with my instrument, the different gear I'm using in that context, as well as the gear I'm using when I'm just going and playing at church on Sundays, or if I'm gigging out through the week. So buckle up because there's going to be a whole lot of information, but I'm really excited because I get really passionate about what I do. So let's go. All right, to start things off, let's talk through my board. So currently I am using a whole lot of stuff that I am very passionate about. So I'm going to try really hard not to talk for a ton of time on each of these different things, but I want to go over my signal chain first, and then I'll talk through each pedal in a little more detail. So currently I am running a Lollar Fuzz pedal into a Pinstripe Buffer, which is their multi-buffer unit. Then I'm running into a Boss TU3 tuner. After that, I'm running into an EHX Mirco Synth, into a BassX from SoloDallas. Then it's a tone hammer from Aguilar, a DB316 also from Aguilar, into a Neve DI, XLR out to the board. I do use an amp, but I only really use that for comfort on stage. I don't add that into my signal or my tone. So I'm not going to dive into amps today, but maybe I'll cover some that I like in a later video. All right, so the details of these pedals. To start, the tone hammer is the core of what I do. Everything revolves around the tone hammer. Tone hammer is king. I've used other preamps in the past, Sans amp, as well as the Noble. I think they're cool. They work for different genres, but kind of for what I do, the tone hammer is pretty much undefeated. I am pairing it with a DB316 because I like the aspects of the tone hammer where I can cut mid-range. Mid-range is a big deal to me. So I'm cutting mid-range on the tone hammer, but I'm also wanting a secondary mid-range cut. So I put that after the tone hammer. If you're not familiar with the DB316, it's actually basically the mid-range of the tone hammer in separate pedal form. Fits nicely on a board, and it helps me get that secondary mid-range cut that I really want. The tone hammer is amazing because in the style of music that I play, we are looking for driven bass, nice saturated punch, absolutely beefy mid-range, keeping the lows, but also having some zing from the pick scrape. So tone hammer does all of that. It has an amazing drive. The AGS circuit is fantastic. I love the warmth of the pedal too, although I'm not utilizing a whole lot of low end out of the pedal. It is amazing. And then pairing it again with that DB316 really helps kind of just lock in the core tone. So starting point, pedal number one to purchase, 1 and 2, definitely the tone hammer. Then from there, I added in the BassX as my first drive stage. I like the BassX so much. I have a separate video that I go over that pedal in detail. So check that out. I am going to try to put it somewhere in the video. But that pedal boosts the mid-range a ton. So I use it as a drive pedal. Could be an always-on pedal. I like it as a drive personally because it gives me that punchy, boosted mid-range. So say the guitar players are doing something higher up the neck and I need just a little bit of a lift in the bass, because technically I act as a rhythm guitar as well as a bass. That pedal gives me a secondary boost option that allows me to fill a bit more of that mid-range space. Incredible saturation, really punchy mid-range, dialed in pedal. So good. So my next drive is the Lollar Fuzz, and I'm loving that fuzz so much. It has such awesome saturation. It does the exact opposite of the BassX. It actually scoops the mid-range. So using the two together is really awesome. It gives me a really punchy option with the BassX for the mid-range, but it also gives me a scooped option. Say the guitars are doing more chunky rhythmic playing. That kind of gives me that separation where there's fantastic lows, fantastic highs, and it kind of scoops that mid-range. So I believe the pedal is based off of an old Ram's Head Big Muff, and I know that era was super sought after for the Big Muff pedals. Definitely amazing. Love the saturation and the punch of that pedal. Then last I have the EHX Mirco Synth. I call it kind of the secret weapon of my tone. I'm using that kind of as an all-in pedal. I don't really blend all these together. I kind of use each pedal separately in my drives. Can do the BassX and the Mirco Synth. It can work. I just kind of use them stacked separately. But the Mirco Synth gives you that triple octave square wave, so it's really cut and dry, gives you an incredible, like absolutely massive tone, and then it's just absolutely nothing. And so that pedal's insane. You're gonna hear it in a second whenever I get to the pedal demo. Then I added a Pinstripe Buffer. It's the multi-buffer. I love this thing. I actually also made a video on that just to kind of demo out what the pedal's doing. I gave a bunch of in-depth thoughts there, so check that video out too in the description. But that thing basically, when I'm explaining it to people, what it did is it opened up depth to my drives. It opened up depth to my tone. Kind of feels like it took like a one-story tone and turned it into a two-story tone. I don't know if that's a great analogy, but that's sort of the way I think of it. Then obviously the Boss tuner, it's hilarious. I've tried so many different tuners and they all have like a click sound when you engage them. I love the Boss tuner because it's got such a quiet click. So TU3 for president. Then I have the Neve DI. I absolutely love the saturation that it gives my low end. I don't know. Neve is just insane. If you have never heard of Neve, obviously you've lived under a rock your whole life, but they're amazing. I also am going to be grabbing the smaller version. They just came out with a tinier version. I think it's going to fit my board better. It's going to give me a little more space so my fuzz can go on the actual board. And then for power, I'm using the Zuma from Strymon. It's amazing. I've enjoyed it. I like how it, I don't know the exact process, but it basically like converts so that if I'm overseas playing, I can plug into any outlet and I'm not afraid of blowing up my board. All right, let's dive into basses. So to start, first bass I use, this is my kind of my daily driver. It's going to be a passive jazz bass built by David Puleo Guitars. I literally love his work so much. He builds them basically like they're vintage instruments, uses nitro paint. They're really lightweight like I like. And this one's rosewood neck. I have another one that I'm going to grab real quick. All right, this is the second bass I'm using pretty often. Same exact setup, except for the neck is a maple neck, which I like. It gives me a little bit more clarity in the mids. I like this other bass though. Personally, I don't know. They're both so good. They're almost identical. I also have Lollar's 60 style pickups in them, which I literally love those pickups so much. They give you so much support in the mid range. Doesn't feel like things are collapsing when you get big. All right, then the last bass, my 74 Fender P bass, all original pickups, all of that. So all of these basses are awesome. I'm actually using the J basses kind of like P basses. The way I'm setting up the pickups, I'm keeping the first pickup all the way on, second pickup all the way off, tone knob all the way up. Kind of gives off a bit of a P bass vibe. All right, so now I'm going to dive into what in-ears I'm using currently. Okay, so 64 audio, I'm using the A18Ts. These things are incredible. They have 18 drivers per ear. I know you can get other bass friendly, they say, headphones, but I prefer a flat headphone where I know exactly what I'm sending. These things are absolutely insane. It's literally like I can point in a direction and they put the sound there. So I definitely recommend getting a great set of molded in-ears. That's a very important piece. I would even say that's as important as the bass you're using or as important as the board you're using, because you got to protect your ears. Another thing with the in-ears, you also are going to hear every single detail. So it makes you a better player. So yeah, when I first got these, it opened up a whole new world for me and I am literally loving it. Gives you so much clarity, so much detail. Yeah, 64 audio, the best. Also, these are not sponsored ads. I'm just really passionate. All right, diving into my travel gear. So what I'm using currently in town, if I'm ever playing, is I'm using the mono, I'm using my mono Vertigo case. It's freaking awesome. This thing is basically bulletproof. I love it. I don't travel with it on airplanes just because I like to put my bass under the plane. I use an SKB case when I'm traveling. I also use a Pelican case for my board. I basically cut out the foam in there and it fits perfectly in there. Put all my cables in there. Keeps me dialed in. I can check it under the plane if I want, or I can throw my mono backpack on there. So basically a lot of what I'm doing with travel right now is pretty quick weekend trips. And so I can put all of my clothes, that stuff into my backpack, attach it to the Pelican, carry on, drop the bass under, dialed in. All right, so now we're going to dive into my board demo. I want to show you guys how it sounds. I'm going to be using that white Puleo jazz bass. Before we do that, strings. I love the NYXL's medium from Theodario. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys are inspired a little bit to maybe pick up some different pedals or grab some different gear. I just wanted to reiterate, none of this is paid ads or anything. I'm just going over what I love and what I'm using and what's working out for me. Got my system pretty dialed, feeling good about it. If you have any questions, definitely jump into the comment section. Jump on Instagram if you want to reach out. Also, don't forget to like the video. It goes a long way. It's free, helps me out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you can catch any new videos that I have coming out. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.